The story begins with a boy named Walter, experimenting with an invention he created. His mother, Wendy, a dedicated police officer, walked in. Excited, Walter demonstrated his device to her, but instead of functioning as planned, it exploded, releasing a cloud of glitter that covered both of them. His mother laughed and told him to get ready for school. Walter hesitated, saying that his classmates always thought he was strange. Before she could respond further, Wendy received an urgent call for duty. Before leaving, she reassured Walter that being different was not a bad thing. In fact, people who think outside the box often create amazing things. She believed that one day, Walter's inventions would benefit the world. Most importantly, she promised that she would always support him. 14 years later, in Japan, a secret agent named Lance was on a dangerous mission. His target, Katsu Kimura, an arms dealer. Lance's objective was to recover a stolen briefcase containing the M9 Assassin drone, the first atmospheric-powered semi-autonomous attack drone. The weapon had been taken from their laboratory by the Yakuza, and Lance's mission was to retrieve it. Determined, Lance infiltrated Kimura's location, single-handedly taking on 70 Yakuza members. Thanks to his exceptional combat skills and cutting-edge gadgets, he effortlessly defeated them. Now, only Kimura remained. After an intense confrontation, Lance easily overpowered him. However, just as Lance was preparing to leave, a criminal named Killian suddenly snatched the briefcase and escaped in a helicopter. Surrounded by Yakuza, Lance used one of his gadgets, a device that played adorable cat videos, to distract his enemies. Seizing the moment, he activated a small explosive, propelling himself into the air in pursuit of Killian. In no time, Lance reclaimed the briefcase, successfully completing his mission. Upon returning to headquarters, he was met with admiration and applause. Lance was, after all, the agency's top agent. Meanwhile, in the same facility, a teenage Walter was working as a scientist. Despite his intelligence, he was still considered odd, and so were his inventions. Shortly after, Lance stormed into Walter's lab, furious about one of his gadgets. The glitter bomb that played cat videos was Walter's creation, and Lance was not pleased. He wanted weapons with real power, tools that could destroy, burn, or explode. Instead, Walter presented another invention, a bubble shield that automatically activated to protect the user from harm. Lance was unimpressed and left in frustration. Determined, Walter chased after him, insisting that he was developing something groundbreaking, a device that could make Lance disappear. But instead of being intrigued, Lance became even more irritated and fired him on the spot. Later, Lance entered a meeting room to deliver the briefcase to his superior. However, when the case was opened, the drone was missing. Just then, Central Agent Marcy entered and accused Lance of stealing the weapon. She presented security footage showing Lance attacking the guards using the assassin drone. Shocked, Lance denied any involvement, but no one believed him. He was immediately placed in handcuffs. With no other choice, an enraged Lance broke free and escaped. Meanwhile, Killian, disguised as Lance, arrived at the covert weapon facility in the North Sea, launching an attack on the guards. On the run, the real Lance realized that someone was impersonating him. To clear his name, he needed to find someone who could lead him to Killian. His best lead? Kimura, now in Mexico. Lacking the necessary tools for his mission, Lance decided to visit Walter's house, hoping to retrieve the invisibility gadget Walter had mentioned earlier. At home, Walter was feeling down after losing his job. He missed his late mother and had dinner while watching TV with his pet bird, Lovey. Afterward, he continued working on his latest invention. He carefully dripped a serum onto one of Lovey's feathers. Instantly, the feather vanished, dissolving into liquid. Overjoyed at his success, Walter was startled when Lance suddenly appeared at his house. Without wasting time, Lance demanded the invisibility device. Before Walter could explain, Lance grabbed the liquid in Walter's hand and drank it all. To his horror, Walter realized that the formula wasn't an invisibility serum, but a DNA-matching compound. Within seconds, Lance began to transform into a blue pigeon. Walter was thrilled to see his experiment work, but Lance was furious, demanding to be turned back immediately. Walter admitted that he hadn't developed an antidote yet. However, he tried to calm Lance by highlighting the advantages of being a pigeon. Lance now had a 360-degree field of vision, making it impossible for enemies to sneak up on him. He was also small and inconspicuous, ideal for a spy. Annoyed, Lance stormed out. Moments later, Walter's house was surrounded by Agent Marcy and her team, who were hunting Lance. Realizing his cover was blown, Lance quickly fled. Walter, sensing something was wrong, questioned Lance. Lance explained that someone was framing him, and he needed to catch the real culprit. Determined to help, Walter insisted on going with him. Lance initially refused, but Walter promised to create an antidote. With no other option, Lance agreed. As they drove away, Marcy's team pursued them, blocking the road. A high-speed chase ensued. Thanks to the car's auto-drive system and a bit of luck, Lance and Walter managed to escape. They boarded a private plane bound for Mexico. Upon arrival, they checked into a hotel in Playa del Carmen. There, they encountered the Yakuza, Kimura's men. Since Lance had taken the form of a pigeon, they were able to enter without drawing attention. While looking around, Lance spotted some leftover food under a chair. Due to his newly developed bird instincts, he couldn't resist and immediately ate it. Soon after, Lovey arrived with 2 other pigeons that seemed eager to befriend him. Lance, however, ignored them and returned to his mission. He attempted to steal Kimura's room key, but failed to realize that pigeons didn't require hotel access. As he was printing the key, Lovey's pigeon friends began pecking at the receptionist's bell, causing a commotion. The noise alerted the receptionist, who noticed Lance and immediately swatted him with a keyboard before tossing him into the trash. Strangely enough, the 2 pigeons returned moments later, carrying Kimura's room key in their beaks. Deciding to handle things on his own, Lance chose to confront Kimura alone, not wanting to involve Walter. He took the elevator up to the 20th floor and slipped into Kimura's room. At first, the interrogation went smoothly, but as soon as Kimura turned around and realized the truth, he grabbed Lance and slammed him to the ground. Just as Kimura was about to crush Lance with a chess table, Walter burst in and electrocuted Kimura until he passed out. With the help of Walter's truth serum, they extracted the information they needed. Meanwhile, in Venice, Killian was infiltrating a top-secret agency facility to steal the global agent database. His plan was to use the M9 assassin drone to eliminate every secret agent in the world. At the same time, Marcy had arrived at the hotel and was closing in on Kimura's room, determined to capture Lance. Lance and Walter attempted to barricade the door using Kimura's unconscious body. However, Marcy ordered her men to blow the door open with a bazooka. With no other way out, Walter had to jump from the 20th floor. Terrified at first, he finally took the leap, using one of his high-tech gadgets to land safely while also managing to take down a few of Marcy's men. But soon, Walter and Lance were surrounded. Walter attempted to use his gadget again, but Lovey's skinny pigeon friend accidentally swallowed it. Moments later, the pigeon spat out a special gum that instantly immobilized Marcy's entire team. Meanwhile, inside the Venice facility, Killian confronted a professor and forced him to hand over the classified agent database. Once Killian got what he wanted, he eliminated the professor without hesitation. Elsewhere, Lance and Walter boarded a ship bound for Venice. By this time, 2 pigeons from Mexico had continued following Lance everywhere. Lance, now used to their presence, named them Fat Pigeon and Skinny Pigeon. During the journey, Walter worked tirelessly to create an antidote for Lance. After 18 hours of effort, it was finally ready. However, when he tested it on Lance's feather, the cure failed. Lance was visibly disappointed. Upon reaching Venice, Marcy was already waiting for them at the pier. She approached Walter, still unaware that Lance had turned into a pigeon, and tried to convince him to reveal Lance's location. Marcy also mentioned that she had known Walter's late mother, who had sacrificed herself to save others. Before Walter could respond, a sudden explosion erupted from a nearby building. Assuming that Lance was responsible, Marcy was momentarily distracted. Walter used this opportunity to escape with Lance, entering the building where the assassin drone was uploading the stolen agent database. Despite Marcy's team firing at it, the drone was unstoppable and successfully completed its task. Walter urged Lance to chase after the drone, pointing out that he was now one of the fastest birds in the world. But to their surprise, Lance couldn't fly and instead plummeted off the rooftop. Thankfully, Lovey and the other pigeons swooped in and saved him. A high-speed pursuit began, with Walter joining the chase on a borrowed motorbike. Skinny Pigeon used an ice attack on the drone, causing it to drop the database, which Lance quickly grabbed. Unfortunately, he then crashed into a wire, allowing the drone to reclaim the database. A fierce battle ensued between the pigeons and the drone. Thanks to their teamwork, they managed to retrieve the database again. Just then, Killian appeared, knocking Walter off his motorbike and taking the database for himself. Cornered, Walter called out for Lance's help, but Lance was still unconscious. Unaware of Lance's true form, Killian shouted, challenging him to a one-on-one duel. As Killian prepared to eliminate Walter, Lance suddenly regained consciousness and called out Walter's name. Seizing the moment, Walter threw breadcrumbs at Killian. Instantly, a swarm of pigeons attacked him, providing Walter, Lance, and their bird allies with an opportunity to escape. Shortly after, Marcy arrived, but Killian disguised himself as Lance and fled using an assassin drone. Marcy, however, noticed a critical detail. The imposter had robotic hands, while the real Lance had normal ones. Meanwhile, Lance, Walter, and the Pigeons escaped aboard a submarine, still tracking Killian's movements. During the journey, Lance unexpectedly laid an egg, revealing a surprising truth: he had been transformed into a female pigeon. This realization helped Walter understand why the antidote had failed. To fix it, he needed to use Lovey's feather, as Lovey was also a female pigeon. Back at the agency, Marcy and her team struggled to find any traces of Lance. There were no fingerprints, no DNA samples, only a single blue feather. Meanwhile, Walter successfully created a new antidote. Lance drank it and, to his relief, transformed back into a human. Thankful, he thanked Walter, got dressed, and prepared for their next move. They soon arrived at the covert weapons facility, where Killian was hiding. Lance insisted on facing Killian alone, not wanting Walter to be in danger. Despite Walter's protests, Lance drugged him and sent him away on the submarine. Once inside, Lance's presence was detected and assassin drones swarmed in. He managed to disable them before confronting Killian. Killian, refusing to surrender, activated thousands of assassin drones to carry out his plan. Lance was electrocuted and taken hostage. From a monitor screen, Lance saw Walter arriving to help. Killian immediately dispatched drones to destroy Walter's submarine. Lance, believing Walter was gone, was devastated, but Walter reappeared with Lovey and the Pigeons, having survived thanks to his bubble protection device. Realizing he needed Walter's help, Lance apologized for underestimating him. Together, they devised a strategy and contacted Marcy for backup. Lance distracted Killian while Walter hacked into his robotic arm. Meanwhile, Walter hid in the shadows, working to hack Killian's robotic arm. Lance, thinking fast, unleashed a glitter bomb featuring an adorable cat video, officially kicking off their plan. The distraction worked. Killian was momentarily thrown off, and the doves launched their attack, destroying the drones swarming around them. Amidst the chaos, Marcy arrived, joining forces with Lance and the doves to buy Walter more time. As Walter neared control of Killian's robotic hand, thousands of assassin drones closed in on the main headquarters. Acting quickly, Director Joy ordered a security lockdown and activated an electromagnetic pulse, cutting the power. Back at Killian's hideout, Lance urged Marcy to use one of Walter's gadgets to fight against him. Though the device seemed unimpressive at first, it packed a serious punch. However, Killian soon realized Walter was attempting to hack his arm. Before they could fully disable it, he tried to escape using a drone, but Walter managed to shoot a gum projectile, momentarily trapping him. Unfortunately, Walter was still holding onto the gadget that restrained Killian, and he was dragged into the air as the drone took off. Lance tried to save him, but failed. Just then, he spotted one of Lovey's feathers floating down, giving him an idea. He would turn back into a dove to rescue Walter. Meanwhile, Walter, still entangled with Killian, successfully completed the hack, shutting down the robotic arm. As Killian began plummeting, Walter activated a bubble shield device, ensuring his survival before deactivating the assassin drones. Simultaneously, the drones attacking the secret agent headquarters also powered down. Lance, now a dove again, dove after Walter as he fell. Though struggling at first, he soon received help from a massive flock of doves, allowing him to safely catch Walter. The two of them landed unharmed, where Marcy finally realized that Lance had been transformed into a dove all along. Meanwhile, Killian, who had crashed into the ocean, was kept alive by Walter's bubble shield. Following the mission, Lance and Walter were dismissed from their roles. While disappointed, they found solace in knowing they had saved countless lives. However, before they could process it fully, they were suddenly kidnapped. It turned out to be a setup. Marcy and Director Joy were behind it. Their termination had been staged, and Director Joy now offered Walter a leadership role in the secret agency. His skills were invaluable, and he would officially be partnered with Lance. In the final scene, Lance, now embracing his ability to turn into a dove, works alongside Walter to fight crime. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and subscribe for more magical adventures. See you next time.